Rin stood outside the glowing cafe named Starlight Roast, his hands slightly shaking. He looked down at his old patched jacket and brushed off invisible dust. The glass doors of the cafe opened automatically, and soft music floated out. Today was his first blind date, and he was already late by 5 minutes. He checked his holophone again. The message read, "Table 9, back corner, red dress." Rin nodded to himself and stepped inside. The cafe was cozy but fancy, nothing like the food stalls near his workshop. Lights hovered in the air like tiny stars, and the tables were spaced out for privacy. As he walked in, he saw a woman sitting at a back corner table, wearing a deep red dress. Her hair shimmered under the lights, and her skin had a soft silver glow. Maybe she was part Ilari, one of the alien species who had settled on Earth. That must be her, Rin whispered to himself. He walked over slowly, cleared his throat, and said, "Hi, I'm Rin. Are you waiting for someone?" The woman looked up with bright sapphire eyes and smiled. "Yes, I believe I am." "Please sit." He sat down, feeling nervous. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic in the lower district is always slow." She tilted her head. "Lower district? You live there?" Rin nodded. "Yeah, I run a small repair shop, mostly drones and hoverboards." "How interesting," she said. "I've never met someone who repairs things by hand." Rin smiled. "Most people don't anymore. But I like fixing things. Machines speak a quiet language, you know." The woman laughed softly. "That's a lovely way to say it." They began talking about work, food, the strange rain last week that came down in cubes. Rin was surprised how easy it was to talk to her. She didn't act like someone rich or proud. She asked questions, listened closely, and laughed at his stories. Time passed quickly. They ordered coffee. Rin chose regular black, and she picked a shimmering alien blend that changed color every few minutes. "You never told me your name," Rin said. She blinked. "Oh, I'm Leora. Nice to meet you, Leora." Rin leaned back, feeling relaxed now. For a moment, he forgot this was a date. It felt more like talking to someone who truly understood him. Just then, a waiter came to their table. He looked confused. "Miss Leora, your guest is waiting at table 9, he said politely. Leora and Rin both froze. They looked around and then back at each other. "This isn't table 9? Rin asked. Leora laughed. "No, this is table 6. Both stared, then burst into laughter. "I think I sat at the wrong table," Rin said, turning red. "And I thought you were someone else," Leora replied, still smiling. Ian stood up quickly. "I'm so sorry. I'll go." "Wait," she said, reaching out gently. "Would you stay? My real date hasn't even messaged me. And honestly, this has been the best conversation I've had in months." Rin paused. No one had ever said that to him before. Slowly, he sat back down. "All right," he said. "But only if you tell me what's in that color-changing drink." She grinned. "Deal." And just like that, two strangers who weren't supposed to meet stayed at the wrong table. And something quietly magical began to bloom between them. The color-changing drink sparkled softly between them. Leora took a small sip and smiled. "It tastes different every few minutes," she said. "Right now, it's sweet like berry ice. A few minutes ago, it tasted like cinnamon tea." Rin raised his eyebrows. "That's wild. I've only had plain coffee my whole life." Leora laughed. "Well, you should try this sometime. It's called Chroma Sip, very popular on Moonstation 11. Rin nodded politely, pretending he knew what she was talking about. He had never left Earth, not even to visit the nearest orbital station. He couldn't afford a space ticket, even if he saved for years. Still, he didn't feel nervous anymore. Leora's laugh was kind, and her smile wasn't fake. She didn't act like someone important or powerful. She just listened, asked questions, and seemed to enjoy their talk. "So tell me more about your repair shop," she said. resting her chin on one hand. You said it's in the lower district? Yeah, Rin replied, stirring his coffee. It's small, but people trust me. I fix old tech hover drones, solar heaters, delivery bots. Stuff that richer places throw away, we try to make useful. Again, that's amazing, Leora said. Fixing things instead of throwing them away, that's real value. Rin shrugged, but he felt proud. It's honest work. I started when I was 13. My uncle taught me everything. And now you run the place alone? Yeah, he passed away 3 years ago. But I still follow his way, keep prices fair. Treat customers like neighbors. Leora looked impressed. You sound more successful than most company leaders I've met. Rin chuckled. I doubt that. I'm still renting a one-room flat above the shop. She smiled softly. Success isn't only about money. Rin didn't know what to say. No one had ever told him that before, not his friends, not even himself. He looked at Leora, wondering who she really was. And you? He asked, what do you do? Leora paused for a second, as if choosing her words carefully. I work in tech too, she said. Mostly design and systems work. Lots of travel. Lots of meetings. Nothing as grounded as your work. Still sounds cool, Rin said. Do you enjoy it? Sometimes, she replied. But today's conversation has been more fun than the last 10 meetings combined. They both laughed again, around them. The cafe was growing busier. More people entered, some dressed in fancy city clothes, others in colorful robes from alien cultures. Still, at their little table, it felt like time had slowed down. Rin leaned forward. Can I ask you something strange? Of course. Why did you ask me to stay? I mean, I was clearly the wrong guy. Leora smiled. Because you were. Honest, kind and interesting. My real date sent a fancy profile, but he didn't even show up on time. You sat down by mistake, but made me feel seen. Rin looked at her, feeling warmth in his chest. He wasn't used to this kind of kindness. Not from strangers. Not from someone so graceful. Before he could speak again, a soft chime came from Leora's wristband. She glanced at it and sighed. I have to go soon, she said. Late meeting. Rin nodded, trying not to look disappointed. But I'd like to see you again, she added. Not by mistake this time. Rin smiled. I'd like that too. They stood up, and Leora reached into her bag. She handed him a small silver card. This has my contact link. Call me sometime. I will, Rin said, holding the card like it was made of gold. As Leora walked away, Rin sat back down for a moment. Just to breathe. The date had started with a mistake, but it felt like something real had just begun. The next morning, Rin sat at his repair shop thinking about Leora. Her voice still echoed in his mind, her laughter. The way she had listened like no one else ever had. He looked at the small silver card she had given him. It glowed faintly, with her contact link floating just above the surface. He hadn't messaged her yet. What if she was just being polite? He muttered to himself. What if she was only being kind? His friend Juno walked in, holding a broken cleaning drone. Hey, spacehead, you dreaming again? Rin quickly put the card away. Just thinking about that blind date? Juno asked, raising an eyebrow. Rin told him everything. The wrong table. The surprise talk. The silver card. Juno whistled. Wow, she sounds amazing. You gonna call her? Rin sighed. I want to, but she's clearly from a higher life. She drinks rainbow coffee. Juno. Rainbow. Juno laughed. So what? She liked you. That's rare. Just message her. Rin nodded slowly. Maybe later. That same day, far across the city in a floating glass tower, Leora sat in a quiet meeting room. A robot assistant spoke in a flat voice, reading reports. But she wasn't listening. She was thinking about Rin. She smiled to herself as she remembered his stories, the one about the delivery bot that kept crashing into walls, and how he fixed it with duct tape and a spoon. Simple stories. Anna stories. Her assistant suddenly said, "Miss Leora, your father is asking for you." She stood up quickly. "Tell him I'll join in 5 minutes." She looked at her wristband and saw the contact message still waiting to be opened. From earlier that day. Unknown sender. "Are you still free for lunch? I waited at table 9 yesterday. Liora had completely forgotten about him. She replied quickly, "Apologies." Something came up, but she didn't feel guilty, not really. The truth was, she had enjoyed her time with Rin far more than any planned meeting. She didn't even want to think about the real blind date anymore. Meanwhile, Rin finally gathered courage and tapped the silver card. A light beam opened a small screen. It asked for a message. He typed, "Hi, this is Rin, from the wrong table. Just wondering if you're free for coffee again." He stared at the message for a full minute, and finally hit send. The message whooshed into the air and vanished. Then came silence. 10 minutes passed. 15. Rin sighed. Maybe she changed her mind. But just as he turned to work on the broken drone, his holophone beeped. He looked. "Leora, I was hoping you'd message. How about tomorrow evening? Same place?" Rin grinned like a child on festival day. The next evening, Rin arrived early at Starlight Roast. He wore the same jacket, but this time it was freshly cleaned. His boots were polished. And in his pocket, he carried a tiny flower made from scrap metal, a gift he had shaped himself. He picked a corner table and waited. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then he saw her. Leora walked in, wearing a soft blue coat and a bright smile. She spotted him instantly and walked over. "Right table this time?" she teased. Rin stood up, smiling. "Right table. Right person." They both laughed and sat down. The cafe lights glowed warmly, and the soft hum of music played around them. This time, it wasn't a mistake. This time, it was something real. After coffee, Leora looked out the cafe window and smiled. "It's still early," she said. "Do you have time for a walk?" Rin nodded. "Sure. Where would you like to go?" "Surprise me," she said, standing up. And smiled. "All right. I'll take you to a place most people don't know." They left the warm lights of Starlight Roast and stepped into the glowing night of Neohaven, the city where humans and aliens lived together. Above them, floating cars moved silently. Colorful signs lit up the sky. Alien music drifted from street corners, mixed with the smell of fried food and sweet spice. As they walked, Leora looked around, amazed. "I've never been to this part of the city. It's alive." "This is the lower district," Rin said. "People here don't have much, but they share everything. If one stall breaks, 3 neighbors come to help fix it." Leora looked at him with respect. "You sound proud." "I am," Rin said. "It's not perfect, but it's home." They turned down a narrow path, past old buildings and quiet houses. Rin stopped in front of a small iron gate with vines wrapped around it. "This way," he said, opening the gate. Leora followed him through a short tunnel. At the end, they stepped into a glowing open space. Floating lanterns lit up the area. A small garden spread out in front of them, with clear pools of water and tall, soft glowing flowers. Small floating orbs moved slowly between the plants. "What is this place?" Leora asked, amazed. "It's called the Sky Garden," Rin said. "My uncle helped build it before he passed away. No one owns it. It's for everyone." Leora walked among the flowers, her eyes wide. "It's beautiful, so peaceful." "Most people don't know it's here," Rin said. "We didn't have much money, so we used recycled tech and old lightstones from scrap markets." She turned to him, impressed. "You helped build this?" "Only the lights and water system," Rin said shyly. "My uncle did the hard part." Leora smiled. "It feels like magic." They sat on a bench made from old hoverboards, watching the lights dance over the garden. Leora looked at Rin. "You know, You see beauty in things that others forget, Rin shrugged. Maybe I just believe everything can be fixed, even broken things. They just need time and care. For a moment, there was silence between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was calm, like the space between stars. Then Leora said softly, "Can I tell you something?" "Of course." "My life looks perfect to others," she said. "Big job, nice apartment, expensive clothes. But most days, I feel like a machine, always working, always tired." Rin listened without speaking. He didn't interrupt or try to give advice. He just looked at her with quiet understanding. "This is the first time in months I've felt free," Leora said. "And it's all because of a wrong table." Rin smiled. "Sometimes mistakes bring the best results." They both laughed gently. The garden lights shifted, turning gold for the night hour. A soft breeze passed through the flowers. "I don't want this evening to end," Leora said. "Me neither," Rin replied. They stood up and walked back slowly, their steps matching. No promises were made, no big words said. But something quiet and real had formed between them. As they reached the edge of the garden path, Leora looked at Rin. "Thank you for showing me this." Rin nodded. "Anytime." They didn't need to say more. In a city of glowing towers and high-speed life, two people had found a quiet place and maybe something more than just friendship. For the next few days, Rin and Leora kept meeting, sometimes for lunch, sometimes for quiet walks through the old streets of Neo Haven. Rin showed her hidden book markets, street artists who painted with light, and a tiny rooftop tea shop with the best sunset view in the district. Each time, Leora seemed more relaxed, more herself. She laughed easily and listened closely. She didn't talk much about her job, and Rin didn't ask. He just enjoyed their time together, not thinking about the future. But deep inside, he knew something wasn't balanced. One night, as Rin walked home from their latest meetup, his friend Juno met him outside the shop. "You're glowing again," Juno said with a grin. "Another date?" "Not a date," Rin replied. "Just time together." Juno raised an eyebrow. "You've been spending a lot of time with her. You even cleaned your boots today," Rin laughed. "She's different. She listens." "She doesn't care where I live or how much I earn." Juno became serious. "You sure about that? You still don't know who she is." Rin paused. It was true. He still didn't know where Leora worked or what kind of life she had outside their small moments. She always changed the topic when it came up. He looked up at the stars and whispered, "Maybe she's just being kind. Maybe I don't belong in her world." Meanwhile, in a shining tower far above the city, Leora sat in a long meeting room, surrounded by company leaders and advisors. She was no ordinary worker. She was the future head of Novodin Technologies, one of the most powerful companies on Earth and beyond. Today, she was supposed to approve a new space station design, but her mind wasn't on the presentation. Her assistant leaned in and whispered, "Miss Leora, are you feeling unwell?" Leora blinked. "No, just tired." She stared at the numbers on the screen, but saw Rin's face instead, his smile when he explained how he fixed broken solar panels, his eyes when he talked about his uncle, the pride in his voice when he showed her the floating garden. She wanted to tell him the truth, but how could she? What would he think when he found out she had access to private satellites, secret labs, and entire space fleets? Would he think she was pretending all along? Would he feel small? She didn't want to hurt him. But the truth couldn't hide forever. The next day, Leora didn't message. Rin waited. He walked around the district, pretending he wasn't checking his holophone every 10 minutes. By night, he gave up and sat on the rooftop alone. He held the tiny metal flower he had made for her, the one he hadn't found the right time to give. "Maybe she's tired of me," he whispered. But across the city, Leora sat at her glass window, looking out at the glowing lights below. She held her own holopad with Rin's number open. Her finger hovered over the call button. Just then, her father entered the room. "You've been distracted lately," he said. I'm fine, Leora replied. Is this about that boy you met by accident? She didn't answer. Her father continued, people like us can't afford small mistakes. You're not just anyone. You're the face of Novidin. I know, she said quietly, but inside, she wasn't sure what she believed anymore. Two people from two different worlds were thinking about each other, wondering if the truth would bring them closer or tear them apart. The next morning, Rin opened his workshop early. The air smelled like oil and warm circuits. A few old drones were scattered across the tables, waiting to be fixed. He tried to focus on work, but his mind kept drifting to Liora she hadn't called. In 2 days, he told himself not to care, but his heart disagreed. Then, as he tightened a screw on a delivery bot, the shop door opened. Rin looked up and froze. Leora stood there. She wore a simple gray jacket and soft shoes. No bodyguards, no glowing jewelry. Her hair was tied back and a small smile played on her lips. Hi, she said, softly. Rin stood up, surprised. You came here? I hope that's okay, she said. I didn't know how else to reach you. Rin wiped his hands on a cloth. Of course it's okay, I just didn't expect it. Leora lifted a small, sleek hover drone from her bag. This stopped working. I thought maybe you could fix it. Rin took it carefully and examined it. This is high tech, he said. Military-level sensors, silent wings. Where did you get this? She smiled. Let's just say, a friend gave it to me. Rin gave her a curious look but didn't ask. Instead, he said, give me a few hours. Want to wait here? I'd love to, Leora said. She sat on a stool in the corner while Rin got to work. She watched him closely, his hands steady, his eyes focused. He moved like someone who understood machines the way others understood words. Do you always fix things this quietly? She asked after a while. Rin smiled. I talk when it's something hard. This one's easy, Leora laughed. You're different from everyone I know. You say that a lot, Rin replied. What kind of people do you usually meet? Leora paused. People with plans. Big companies, powerful families, everyone chasing more. More credits, more control. I don't think they even know what makes them happy anymore. And you? Rin asked gently. Do you know? Leora looked at him. I think I'm starting to learn. The shop became quiet again, filled only with the hum of Rin's tools. Outside, the street bustled with voices, hoverboards, and floating food carts. But inside, it felt like a quiet little world made just for them. After an hour, Rin closed the drone panel and gave it a gentle push. It lifted into the air and hovered in place. All fixed, he said. Leora clapped lightly. You really can fix anything. I try, Rin replied. But some things are harder than they look. Leora stood up. Thank you, not just for this, but for everything. Rin looked at her, his voice a little unsure. I thought maybe you didn't want to see me anymore. I did, she said quickly. I just needed to think about. What? Leora looked down, then met his eyes. About telling you something important. But I'm afraid if I do, things might change. Rin tilted his head. You don't have to be afraid with me. I know, she whispered. She didn't tell him the full truth, yet not today. But something in her heart relaxed. She had seen where he lived, how he worked, and who he truly was, and none of it scared her. In fact, it made her feel safe. And looked at her gently. Whatever it is, I'll listen when you're ready. Leora smiled. Thank you, Rin. They stood in silence again. Two people from different lives, slowly moving closer with each quiet moment. The next morning, Rin opened his workshop early. The air smelled like oil and warm circuits. A few old drones were scattered across the tables, waiting to be fixed. He tried to focus on work, but his mind kept drifting to Liora she hadn't called. In 2 days, he told himself not to care, but his heart disagreed. Then, as he tightened a screw on a delivery bot, the shop door opened. Rin looked up and froze. Leora stood there. She wore a simple gray jacket and soft shoes. No bodyguards, no glowing jewelry. Her hair was tied back and a small smile played on her lips. "Hi," she said, softly. Rin stood up, surprised. You came here? I hope that's okay," she said. "I didn't know how else to reach you." Rin wiped his hands on a cloth. "Of course it's okay. I just didn't expect it." Leora lifted a small, sleek hover drone from her bag. "This stopped working. I thought maybe you could fix it." Rin took it carefully and examined it. "This is high-tech," he said. "Military-level sensors, silent wings. Where did you get this?" She smiled. "Let's just say, a friend gave it to me." Rin gave her a curious look but didn't ask. Instead, he said, "Give me a few hours. Want to wait here?" "I'd love to," Leora said. She sat on a stool in the corner while Rin got to work. She watched him closely, his hands steady, his eyes focused. He moved like someone who understood machines the way others understood words. "Do you always fix things this quietly?" she asked after a while. Rin smiled. "I talk when it's something hard. This one's easy," Leora laughed. "You're different from everyone I know." "You say that a lot," Rin replied. "What kind of people do you usually meet?" Leora paused. "People with plans. Big companies, powerful families, everyone chasing more. More credits, more control. I don't think they even know what makes them happy anymore." "And you?" Rin asked gently. "Do you know?" Leora looked at him. "I think I'm starting to learn." The shop became quiet again, filled only with the hum of Rin's tools. Outside, the street bustled with voices, hoverboards, and floating food carts. But inside, it felt like a quiet little world made just for them. After an hour, Rin closed the drone panel and gave it a gentle push. It lifted into the air and hovered in place. "All fixed," he said. Leora clapped lightly. "You really can fix anything." "I try," Rin replied. "But some things are harder than they look." Leora stood up. "Thank you, not just for this, but for everything." Rin looked at her, his voice a little unsure. "I thought maybe you didn't want to see me anymore." "I did," she said quickly. "I just needed to think about." "What?" Leora looked down, then met his eyes. "About telling you something important. But I'm afraid if I do, things might change." Rin tilted his head. "You don't have to be afraid with me." "I know," she whispered. She didn't tell him the full truth, yet not today. But something in her heart relaxed. She had seen where he lived, how he worked, and who he truly was, and none of it scared her. In fact, it made her feel safe. Rin looked at her gently. "Whatever it is, I'll listen when you're ready." Leora smiled. "Thank you, Rin." They stood in silence again. Two people from different lives, slowly moving closer with each quiet moment. 2 days had passed since Rin saw Leora last. He kept thinking about her words, how she wanted to tell him something but was afraid it might change everything. He waited for her call, but it didn't come. Then on the third morning, something unexpected happened. A man in a black suit stepped into Rin's shop. He looked out of place, too clean and too serious for this part of the city. "Are you Rin?" the man asked. "Yes," Rin replied, wiping his hands. "I'm from Novadin Technologies," the man said. "You've been selected for a special job offer, high pay, full training, immediate placement at our central tower." Rin blinked. "Novadin? Why would they want me?" "You've been recommended," the man said. "Your repair skills are excellent. We believe you'd be a valuable addition." Rin narrowed his eyes. He had never even applied to Novadin. "Who recommended me?" "I'm not allowed to say," the man replied. "But someone very high up." Rin thought for a moment. His heart sank. Liora. He forced a smile. Thank you, but I'll have to think about it. The man handed him a silver folder. The offer is valid for 1 week. After the man left, Rin stood in silence. It was clear now. Liora hadn't just been anyone. She was someone important. Someone powerful. And she had tried to help him in secret. He walked to the back of the shop, sat down, and stared at the metal flower he once made for her. It felt like a memory now, something pure that didn't belong in her world. She's from a place where people offer jobs with one message, he whispered, and I'm just a mechanic in a dusty street. He felt angry, but also sad. He didn't want gifts. He wanted honesty. He had trusted her. Meanwhile, Liora stood in a quiet room at the top of Novadin Tower, watching the city through the glass walls. She held her holopad tightly. The message she sent through her company had been received, but Rin hadn't called back. Her heart felt heavy. She had tried to help him quietly, thinking it would be a gift. She didn't want him to feel small or less important. She only wanted to open a door that had always been closed to people like him. But maybe she had made a mistake. Her assistant walked in. The board is ready for your report. Liora nodded. Cancel it. Excuse me? I need to go. I've made someone feel less, and that's not who I want to be. That evening, Rin walked along the edge of the sky garden. The lights were soft, and the floating lanterns moved slowly above. He didn't feel like fixing anything, not machines. Not even his own thoughts. Then he heard footsteps. He turned around and saw Liora. She looked different. No fancy coat. No tech bracelet. No company badge. Just her, simple and honest. I heard about the job offer, Rin said, not angry but hurt. You tried to fix my life like a broken machine. Liora stepped closer. That wasn't my goal. I wasn't trying to change you. I just wanted to help. But you didn't tell me the truth, Rin said. You let me believe we were the same. Liora nodded. I was afraid. Afraid that if you knew, you would walk away. Rin looked at her for a long time. Then he said quietly, I don't want gifts. I just wanted you. Liora's voice shook. Then let me stand with you. No towers, no power, no money, just me. The wind moved gently between them. And though nothing was fixed yet, something real began again, this time, not from a mistake, but from truth. The next day, Neo Haven buzzed with excitement. A big tech festival was happening in the center plaza. Giant screens, flying banners, glowing booths from companies all over Earth and beyond. One name shone brighter than the rest, Novadin Technologies. Crowds gathered in the main square as the festival's opening speech was about to begin. Liora stood behind the stage, dressed in a simple white outfit. Her long hair was tied back, and her eyes looked calm, but inside, she was nervous. She wasn't nervous about her speech. She was nervous about him. Rin hadn't called. Not last night. Not this morning. She had told him the truth. Now the choice was his. Far away in the lower district, Rin sat on the steps outside his workshop. He held the silver folder with the job offer. The HoloLink blinked softly, still, waiting for his reply. He didn't care about the job anymore. He cared about her. He stood up and took a deep breath. Maybe it's time I stop being afraid. He grabbed something from his work table, a small box, and walked quickly toward the Sky train station. Back at the festival, the host's voice echoed through the plaza. Please welcome the future head of Novadin, Liora Eston. The crowd clapped loudly. Cameras turned toward the stage. Liora stepped forward. She looked out over the thousands of people. Lights flashed, drones hovered, reporters spoke. But Liora wasn't looking at the crowd. She was looking for one face. She cleared her throat. Good evening, everyone. I had a speech prepared, but I want to say something else instead. The crowd grew quiet. I've spent my life in tall buildings and meeting rooms. I've led teams, signed deals, launched satellites. But none That taught me what I've learned this past week. She paused. I met someone by accident. He sat at the wrong table. But that small mistake changed my entire world. People murmured. The camera zoomed in closer. He showed me what real value is. Not credits, not power, but kindness, honesty, and the courage to be yourself, even when others expect more. Then she smiled. Rin, if you're here, I miss you. A long silence followed. Then someone from the crowd shouted, There he is. Everyone turned. Rin was walking through the crowd, holding a small box in his hand. His jacket was a little dusty, and his boots were worn, but his eyes were steady. He stepped up onto the stage. Leora looked at him. Surprised but happy. Rin opened the small box. Inside was the little metal flower he had made from old scrap pieces. I made this for you before I even knew who you really were, he said. I didn't fall for your name, your company, or your world. I fell for you. The crowd was completely silent now. And I don't care if we're from different lives, he continued. I just care that we're real with each other. So, can we try again? Leora's eyes filled with tears. She stepped forward and took the flower. Yes, she said, voice soft but clear. Yes, we can. The plaza exploded in applause. Drones flashed photos. Reporters cheered. But Rin and Leora heard none of it. They only saw each other in a city of steel and light. A poor mechanic and a powerful heiress had found something rare, love that needed no riches, no rules, and no perfect plan. Just two hearts. And one wrong table.